just fast.
Uja gets a pretty good start. Led to Uja leading this one. Uja might just have a ball, and he goes. Uja who comes through to take this one.
Uja's going to be close on the line, and Uja's going to get it. 9.99.
Camera focuses on CJ Uja. He does take it. 9.99.
Clocking up one of the best wins of his career as a senior athlete. Gets into that wonderful stride. He looks really moves across the ground so well.
Confidence boosting run there from the young Briton. He's the youngest Briton to have ever gone under 10 seconds.
Welcome to my channel. This is the first episode, and the first episode we will be talking about track and field. I'm going to talk about the Grand Slam track. Obviously, there's been mixed emotions or mixed messages about this, obviously coming from the field side of things of track and field and how they're not involved. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you feel, if you feel it should be included, and what do the fans want to see if there was a field event. I do like a couple of those field events, if I'm being honest. So it would be nice to get that in. Anyway, back to the topic. This is a new format now. This isn't the Diamond League. This isn't the World Tour, which is gold, silver, and bronze. This is a completely different format, and it was founded by Michael Johnson. Basically, what it is, in a nutshell, I'll break it down. There is the short sprints, the short hurdles, the long sprints, the long hurdles, and the short distance and the long distance. Now, each category will have 2 events in them, and it will be female and male. There will be 48 challenges, and there'll be 48 races. Now, the 48 races are the people you would see on the 4 Grand Slams, which is in different locations. The first one, that being in Jamaica, and then the second one in Miami, and I think the other 2, one's in Philadelphia, and I think the last one is in LA. These are the 4 Grand Slams over across April till June, late June, and yeah, they'll be taking place. So in the short sprints, what we have is the 100 and the 200 short hurdles. We either have the 100 hurdles, which is for the females, the 110, which is for the males, and the 100 meters sprint. And for the long sprints, we have the 200 and the 400. The long hurdles, we have the 400 hurdles and the 400 flat. And the short distance is the 800 and the 1500. And the long distance is the 3000 and the 5000. Sorry, I'll keep on looking. I just make sure I've got to get that right. So that is all the events involved. And obviously, as I said, you'll have to do 2. And it's not 2 of your choice. Obviously, if you are allocated to the short distance, that is the 1 and 2, as I just said. And it's basically done on a point system. The point system is, let me make sure I get this right. The point system is, if I can remember off head, if you finish first, that is 12 points. And if you finish second, it's 8 points. And it goes all the way down to 1 point, basically, if you finish last. And obviously at the end, from the 2 events, a tally summed up, and basically the most consistent person then goes on and wins the jackpot of 100k. What we will do is we'll bring you an overview of the whole event. So what we want to talk about is, we want to talk about the competition, the production, and the crowd, and give you an overall summary of what we rate it. And that will be the review. Let's get into it. What I'd like to start with, I'm obviously going to start with the short sprints in the male first. I felt it was a good show. It was actually very good times. Knowing that it's early April. The times people might feel they weren't as quick. But I feel as the season goes on and as the meets, people become more familiar with the meets, I feel it will get faster. I do feel obviously it's the first one, so it is trial and error. So we have to remember that. But as I said, looking at it, I think it was a close race in the 100 meters from the men. We had the top three that actually finished top three was Kenny Bednarek, Zarnell Hughes, and Oblique Seville. Now, I think it was an all-round good performance from Kenny, especially last year. He kind of not announced himself, but he's come onto the stage and shown that he's not just good for the 2, he's also good for the 1. And it was another dominant performance. And yeah, I think it was a close race. It was very competitive, as I said. So that was one of the many competitive races across the Grand Slam. Let me know what you also think about them not showing the wins, because I did pick up on that. They weren't showing the wins on the Grand Slam, which was a bit different. As a track athlete myself, it was a bit strange because you want to know what the wins are. You know, certain people are seeing certain times. Obviously, in different events, these times from the men were still pretty quick. And we're probably thinking, oh, why is that so slow? Or why isn't it as fast as, you know, the people that are meant to be the world's best athletes? I think we've also got to take into consideration some people are still in a block of training. Some people have come off of indoors and different things. It's so early in the season to make any kind of judgment. And it is the first event that it has been hosted by the Grand Slam track team. Okay, as I said, Kenny Bednarek was the first person that I wanted to talk about. Dominated both events. Came in there, done what he was meant to do. And yeah, the 200 wasn't that close. But yeah, the 100 meters was close, and he took it overall. And now we move on to the female side of things, which we had Melissa Jefferson Wooden, who's also actually in the same group. And I read the other day, I don't think she's run a 200 at this level. If I'm corrected, correct me if I'm wrong. And her PB is actually 22.4. So it was pretty interesting. She came out and she did win. She won actually both the 100 and the 200 again, which was a dominant performance from that group. So they're shown real intent early on in the season. And yeah, they're letting it be known that they're here. Off the back of last year for Melissa Jefferson Wooden, it was good. Obviously, as I said, another person who had a great year last year. I feel like it was her breakthrough year. And she came out and she completely dominated. It was nice to see her get out in the 200 and run a good race there, especially with those girls who were behind her, who are very fast in the world-class field in the 200. As I said, it's early door season, but it's nice to get a win under your belt. What I would say is, again, the win didn't help. I don't think the time actually came across as fast. It was 23.4 if I'm corrected, and it was nearly a -5. When I looked at it after, as I said, it doesn't come up on, and maybe that's something they can work with and explain to you why they feel that it's not come up on your screen. But all in all, the top 3 from that, as I said, in the 100, Melissa Jefferson finished first, Jenna Prandini finished second, and Justice Spears finished third. And in the 200, Melissa Jefferson, Jenny Prandini, and Justice. So it's basically the top 3 for both events, and they didn't change. Pretty consistent, if I'm honest. I'm sure some of the girls that are lower down will, you know, get it together eventually over the next couple of Grand Slams and perform to their best. What I would like to say is, couple of people, I haven't spoken about this, the challenges and races, the challenges will change and the races will stay consistent. So that's where it's like, I feel Grand Slam has also opened up the opportunity for people that are doing well in the season to become a challenger and to get onto one of these races. I think they've just announced the Graz will be in the Miami one, which is the next one in a couple of weeks' time, which is interesting. And on now to the 200, 400. So the long sprints. The long sprints, again, I think one of the days represented a windy day, more so negative, so it was coming into their faces. So the times weren't anything crazy to write about, which is reflection of the time. Christopher Bailey, off of the back of indoors, he was a challenger and he took the 400. He ran well. Sometimes, look, off the back of indoors, people suggest that, you get tired. Some other people suggest that you have momentum so you can carry on. Me personally, I would have liked to have a rest because, season's long and going straight into the outdoors can be a bit tiring. But, he got the win and it was a good time, 44.3, which is good, I feel, on that Jamaican track. And yeah, he came up and beat a good field. Obviously, in the 200 now, Matthew Hudson-Smith, who also finished second in the 400, finished first in the 200. And it was another late surge from him. To be fair, I have been watching Matthew over the last, I would say, 18 months or so, taking on more 200s. And it would be interesting to really see what he could do over the 200 if he puts his mind to it. He does have this late surge. I'd say it comes at like 150 and he finishes strong. So it will be good to see if he can get closer down to that 10 flat mark. So that will be interesting. What I would say before that as well, the guys that finished in that, so Matthew Hudson-Smith, as I said, he was the most consistent. So he actually won the jackpot, which was 100k again, and he ended on 20 points. Christopher Bailey finished second, and Vernon Norwood finished third. So those were the top three from the long sprints for the males. And moving on to the long sprints for the women. Just give me a moment. Okay, over to the long sprints now for the women. So the long sprints, I'm just trying to run through a review. I don't want to spend too long on this as, there is a lot to get through and I still have to do the ratings at the end. So bear with me. We had the long sprints. For me, I feel this was probably the best showcase of the whole meet for the women. I think it was because it didn't only show, I think it showed women from the 100, 200 and women from the 400, 200 meeting in the middle. And it was really good because it was good to see people like Dina and Gabriel Thomas versus Paulinho and Saul Nasser. So it was good to see that combination of the two, world-class in their events meet up in the middle and go for it. I think this could be an eye catcher. And I'll talk about the long hurdles sprints after. I do feel Cindy McLaughlin could have added to this and she should have been involved in this because it would have made it even more interesting. I feel they put on a great show. I feel the 200 obviously was into a headwind, but still, nevertheless, great time, 22.6. It's not bad this time of the year. I feel from Gabriel Thomas, you had Paulinho who finished second and you had Dina who finished third. And then in the 400, I mean, this might have been the race of the day, if I'm honest. When I look down the list, I mean, people were running PBs and running crazy times. I think Saul Nasser produced one of her fastest times, 48.67, which is, look, right here it says season's best, which just shows you how fast she is in general. Gabriel Thomas finished second in the PB of 49.1. Now, April, that is moving. That's moving. And that's interesting. I don't know if she knows how good she is at the 400. She always did look like she could be a good 400 meter sprinter. So it'll be interesting to see what she does. And you know what? After the back of the Olympics, where she's won 200 meters, will be interesting in this cycle. Does she go and challenge for the 400? Because I don't see why not. Even Matthew, I'd like to see him step back into the 200 and take on some of the guys. You know what I'm saying? He went to my European juniors and he competed for the 200. That's how I have known Matt as a 200 meter sprinter. And then he moved up to the 4 as a senior. So it would be interesting if those two decide to mix it up somewhere in this cycle. I think Michael Johnson's also done a good job of, showing those athletes that they are world class in other events. And I think that's what it will highlight in this. I do still think Dina can run a very good 400. So it will be interesting if she was to get a better lane as a challenger in the next couple. But who knows, she might be a challenger for the short sprints come around, as she's not a racer, so she's not contracted actually to carry on doing the longer sprints. But yeah, overall on that table, Gabriel Thomas took home the prize money of 100k. Sawati Nassar took home second, and Mario Paulina took home third. So those are your three. And if I haven't spoken about it, the prize money is from 1st to 8th. Obviously, they all get a flat fee of whatever they've negotiated on top of that. But the flat fee is 100k, 50k, 30k, 25k, 20k, 15k, 12.5, and 10k. Which, look, not calling anyone out, but you win a Diamond League, you're looking at that 8th prize jackpot, which just shows you where track and field, or where this event is moving to. On to now is the short sprint hurdles. Now, I am not an expert on this. Okay, now the short hurdles, it wasn't, I don't know, for me, I don't think it was competitive, but it wasn't the names, you know, the names that some of them that you want to see, you know. Obviously politics does play a part in sport, but it would have been nice to see some more of the top guys mix in with this. Nevertheless, it was competitive because they all crossed the line, I think, all inside that 10th of each other for the 110 hurdles. And 13-2 into a headwind's not a bad result. And that was won by Dylan Beard of United States in 13:29. So he took 110. What I would have liked to see, though, but now I'm seeing it now for the first time, because as I said to you, it doesn't show you the headwind, but it makes sense now, which is Sacha Zéon, who is a racer of France, and he ran 10:55, but it was into a -2. So -2, call it what you like, spin it on his head, +1, maybe that's 10 too high. The times weren't crazy fast for the 100 flat. So I think there was a bit, you know, I don't know. I think, yeah, clearly a lot of those guys, I'm not sure what their PBs are. I know Omar McLeod is a sub-10 guy. I'm not sure how fast the rest of them are, but he's currently clearly not in that shape right now. It's still early season, so these guys have time to sharpen up and get into shape. It's just how it goes. So overall, Sacha Zéon of France took home the jackpot of 100k. Dylan Beard finished second. Cordell Tinch finished third. So on this one, it's actually, what we're finding out is actually a lot of challengers are actually finishing in the top 3 places. So yeah, I think those events, it's probably easier for the challengers to come in and finish. I don't know how strong the races are. So obviously Daniel Roberts is finished just outside the top 3. He'll probably be looking to pick things up as the season goes on. And now moving on to the women short hurdles sprints. We saw Tia Jones. We actually saw Tia Jones run a world lead into a negative wind, and it was actually technician hurdling from her. As always, she's always been good. She's a really good technician over the hurdles, and she will be one to watch this year going outdoors. Daniel Williams, always consistent, always shows up to big races, and Jasmine Camacho Quinn, another big time racer. As I said, it's so early. I mean, it was a clear victory, but as the season goes on, they will meet in Miami, and I think the races will start getting faster, and maybe we might have a different winner. I'm not sure. But yeah, these girls put on a display. It was a good race. Yeah, look, I even missed out Akira Nugent, who's an up-and-coming hurdler as well. Masai Russell, Olympic champion. So to be fair, the quality in this field is actually really good from a competition standpoint, and it will be interesting to see how it goes on, who will be added and who will come in. The 100 flat, it wasn't really a good show. As I said, it was -3, -3.4, this is a huge headwind. I mean, you can't really do anything. Daniel Williams still won it in 11.5 in the 100 flat. Tia Jones actually finished 6th. Yeah, basically Tia Jones. So basically what it means is you can come 1st and 6th, and you can still get 2nd, depending on how everything obviously goes in general. But yeah, Daniel Williams for the win, Tia Jones 2nd, Akira Nugent in 3rd. So that would have been nice for the home crowd to see one of their own get the 100k jackpot from the women's side. Okay, swiftly moving on. So the long hurdle sprints, we have a winner, Alison DeSantos, Rashawn Clark, and Caleb Dean. To be fair, it wasn't a slow time. I always do feel sometimes when the Jamaican track is windy, it can be really windy and it's hard to run crazy times. 47.61. It would be good to see some of the other guys, Carsten Vorhorn, Ryan Benjamin. I don't know how they can make it happen, but it would be good to see these guys get in there because I would like to all see them in the flat as well. And a couple of the other guys. I think this is an event that has moved on over the last 5 years. I mean, did I ever think I'd ever see 45 running over hurdles? No, but it's happened. So it would be good to, get these guys on this new platform and put on a spectacle and show, this is the higher level of athletics and this is what it's about. I really do see what Michael Johnson's trying to push here. He is, he's trying to push up the worth of the sport really. And that is putting out the best athletes in front of the best crowds that he thinks will do well. So yeah, it was all right. It wasn't a close one. I feel like Alex dos Santos was pretty confident about winning probably both events, and he came out on top and won both events. So what we do have is the 1, 2, 3. We have Alex dos Santos as 1. We have Rashawn Clark and Caleb Dean as your 1, 2, and 3 for the long hurdle sprints. Okay, moving over to the long hurdle sprints for women. As I said, 400 hurdles and 400 flat. I do think for me, this was, I would say, is a mismatch, and look, people might disagree with me. Let me know in the comments what you think, but I do think it is a bit of a mismatch. You can see Sydney McLaughlin won it here by nearly 2 seconds. And look, that's not her fault. She's just in that place of complete dominance. And that's no slight to the rest of the women. Delina Mohammed has been a great servant to that event. And she did hold the world record before that. But yeah, I would have liked to see Sydney go in the longer short sprints over the 2 and 4 because I feel it would have been more competitive and it wouldn't probably have just been an easy ride. And as I can see here in the 400, she almost won by 2 seconds again, 50.3 to 52.0. So I would have liked it. I don't know how it works. I don't know if she can step in because she's a racer. Obviously, she might be contracted to this. But if she could step into the long sprints and race some of those females, I think it would spice that one up. And that would have a lot of people tuning in for that, for sure. But yeah, the top 3 in this event is Sydney McLaughlin, Delilah Mohammed, and Jeanette Knight of Jamaica. So those were the top 3 for the long hurdle sprints. Moving on to the 800 and the 1500, we had Marco Arop who won the 800, and we had Emmanuel Wanyonyi who won the 50. What I am going to say is I do feel this event will become way more competitive and I think this event will take off. I think Jamaica's hard, obviously it's hot. I'm not sure it's ideal conditions to compete over the middle distance, but I think I would have loved to see the Grand Slam come to Europe or come to like a Monaco or come to somewhere where it's like, it's nice. Italy, south of France, maybe even London. They've been good to see, but we'll talk about that after. But yeah, Marco Arop, Emmanuel Wanyonyi, Bryson Hoppel, finished 3rd. And from that is Emmanuel Wanyonyi, Marco Arop, and Yard Mugus from America. So that is your top 3. As I said, I think over time this event will get more competitive. I think we'll start seeing the low one, maybe 142, start getting down there, and it's 335. So this event hasn't really set a light. I didn't really expect it to set a light right now. It's still early doors, but soon enough it will set a light. What I've realized, it would have been good to have this event in Monaco, because I know it would have been good each one of these Grand Slams. For example, you get fast times in Monaco for the middle distance, and maybe you get fast time for the short sprints in a certain location, and then for the longer stuff, it might be a certain location. That would have been good. And maybe, look, it's the first year that the Grand Slam are doing something like this, so it will be into the short distance for females. Nikki Hills, DeBarber, Rigel, and Jessica Hall finished in 1, 2, and 3. taking it for the 800, and the 1500, the Barbara Wajel and Susanna Ajor and Nikki Hiltz finished 1, 2, 3. The times weren't particularly quick, 1:58 and 4:04. I think over time, as I said, it probably will get faster. Likelihood is, I feel like for the middle distance, I'm not sure Jamaica in terms of the wind probably suited some of these events. And what we have here for the overall winner, which was the Barbe Wajel of Ethiopia, who won it, and then you had Nikki Hiltz, who finished second, and Susanna Ajor of Kenya, who finished third. So that was for the short distance table. I'm sure we'll start seeing a couple more people. I do really like the middle distance 800. If you don't know, is my favorite event, and has been since World Juniors. When I first actually watched it, I was actually on the ground for the 800 men final, and I saw the pace of how fast they were going around the track, and it's almost a sprint. Like, if you actually get a chance to go down on the ground, like literally not in the crowd, but on the ground, and see how fast they're moving, it's not a jog. Trust me, they're really sprinting. Moving on to the long distance, which now I do this, I think I need to actually start understanding these events, 3,000 and 5,000. And if I'm honest, I haven't really dived too much into these events since Mo Farah probably retired, and those other guys that have retired as well. I feel the event probably is still faster than ever, but I'm not sure it's actually got those names that people know. Let me know your thoughts, guys, on what you think of all of those results. What I'd like to say is Grand Slam track is it's amazing what they're trying to do, and I love it. But I do think there would be room for, you know, maybe specials to host other events, just to kind of see if it would work, trial and error. Obviously, I know the name is Grand Slam track, but I feel couple field events, long jumps is always a special one. I like triple jump, and high jump. So I think these events could be added in a one-off event, depending on where, and I'm sure it will do well. Okay, now over to the review, and I'm going to start with the crowd. Now, we know Jamaica is rich in heritage in terms of athletics. It is their national sport. That was their national stadium. Now, what we did see is for the first day, there was hardly any crowd. The second day, it picked up a bit, but for me, if I'm honest, it wasn't significant. And I have seen that stadium filled before, and Jamaican crowds, they come out. They've got one of the most amazing fans. I've always said in my career I would love to race there. Who knows? But yeah, Jamaica is one of those places you just know they're up for it. Caribbean vibes, the lot. And I just felt like the crowd didn't really come out. It's like they didn't know about the event, or maybe the event fell on the wrong weekend and there was other things going on. So with the crowd, I'm going to give that rating. I'm going to give that a 5. And I think that's fair for where it's at. I do think, you know, a lot more could have been done if they couldn't get people to buy tickets. They could have got kids in there and probably done a lot more to make sure that it looked okay on TV, because we could actually see that there was empty seats, and that isn't a good showcase for something that's a new event, you know, because they always like to say the first event is meant to be the one where everyone comes out and then eventually the numbers start dropping. So that was a bit disappointing. Production is good. I think Athletics is, since I would say Doha, production has been getting better in athletics. What I would like to do and what I'd like to see more is I would like to see a bit more maybe from athletes who are watching it, who are hashtagging and tweeting Track Grand Slam, and then maybe it coming up on the screen. Or what I'd like to see is more how people have done in head-to-heads, and maybe obviously as this builds up, we'll start getting an understanding of head-to-heads, and even Olympic champions, world champions, and what people have won over the last couple of years. Obviously, it is good that the commentator does announce that, but it would be good to kind of see that on the screen. But production-wise, I think they've done a good job, and I'm going to give that a 7. I think it's a strong 7, so it's not too bad. I just wish the production could match how the atmosphere was. So I'm going to give that a strong 7. And then moving on to the overall competition, I think the competition again, I'll give that a 7. It's still early doors in the seasons. People are still finding their feet, still finding their race rhythm. So it's always, you know, going to be hard to judge the first one because people are at different places. I would like to see some people come in. I would like to see people move to different events. I think, let me know what you think as well, and who maybe you would like to see in next Grand Slam. And yeah, just give me your thoughts and let me know. My overall rating for this, I am gonna go 6.5, 7 if I can be somewhere in the middle there. Call it a 6.5. So not the best show, but not too bad. And you know, I don't knock it. And it is something that is trying. Michael Johnson is trying. He's trying new things. He's seen how it works. I'm sure after maybe the first year, maybe the next year, they'll have better ideas. He's already talking about bringing in influencers. He's talking about doing different things. So he's already trying to innovate what's going on in track and field, which is amazing. You know, even if it isn't, you know, I had a tweet about this, and even if it isn't the track athletes mixing with the YouTubers, or mixing with other people from other industries, it will be good to see them in a separate race, because that way it brings more eyes to our sport. And I think that's a really good concept and a really good idea. But overall, I'll give it a 6.5 for 7 at a push. And that is what I rate it. Please let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you like and you subscribe if you're not following already. Over and out. This is my first episode, Track and Field. Peace. Thank you.